OnePlus. So OnePlus has always been a brand that I've really liked, but I've always had a lot of issues with. And leading up to the OnePlus 7 and OnePlus 7 Pro's announcement and reveal, I was very skeptical about it. One, all the rumors pointed to it having a pop-up camera, a more expensive build, a better design, a very good screen and all that. And that impressed me a lot, but it also scared me because one, OnePlus releases 2 phones a year, and secondly, they also have been increasing in price a lot. And with the features they're talking about adding, I was scared that they were going to make the phone on a direct competitor level with the S10 and the other phones that are in that flagship range, and I knew that OnePlus just couldn't compete with them because of some of their shortcomings. However, when the OnePlus 7 and 7 Pro were announced, I was pleasantly shocked. So the 7 and 7 Pro, why I haven't talked about it, by the way, till now, is because I wanted to get some space away from the other people so I didn't get lost in the mix. Let me talk about the OnePlus 7, and I'm going to look at the specs just to make sure I don't get anything wrong. It's going to come with a Snapdragon 855, which we all expected, and the interesting thing is the OnePlus 7 is going to have the same primary camera as the 7 Pro, the 48 megapixel, and the same secondary camera. What it's not going to have is the third telephoto lens. Now, everything else comes fairly similar to what the OnePlus 6T was. The design is very similar. It has the same teardrop style notch that the 6T had, and everything else is going to remain more or less similar to the previous 6T with a spec bump. So that's kind of like an S model upgrade you see with the iPhones. Now the 7 Pro is where the true innovation, that is actually the new. One of the most interesting features of the OnePlus, and I think that's the most talked about, has to be that display. So they've gone to a brand new display, so it's no longer a flat display like all the OnePlus phones before it. It has curves on the sides, it is a full screen display, it has no notch, and it has a 90 hertz refresh rate and is finally Quad HD. So that's a big improvement over the last display on the OnePlus. And just to put it in perspective for you guys, the 6T did not have a Quad HD display. It only had a 1080p. It did not have a 90 hertz refresh rate. It still had a notch. And now, because there is no notch, the camera is, of course, that pop-up style motor that everybody's seen now. It's very interesting, very cool. I messed around with it in store, and it was very cool. But, I was thinking that after a couple of days of having this, you're going to feel like that's just a gimmick and really get over it very quickly. That 90 hertz display, by the way, it was pretty nice just from my 5 minutes of using it compared to just the 6T beside it. I didn't find the 90 hertz and 60 hertz to have a very big difference like the normal iPad 60 hertz and the 120 hertz had, but that makes sense because of the doubling the refresh rate, but only 90 from 60 to 90. I didn't personally feel that big of a difference. Another big thing that they added on both the 7 and 7 Pro are dual speakers. So you do have dual stereo speakers finally, which I am very happy with. I was really hoping they'd put it on the 6T. Of course they didn't, but they finally did on the 7. Now they still have the same in-display fingerprint scanner, but it is way better. So I know the in-display fingerprint scanner has been around for a bit, but nobody has done it right. The 6T was always troublesome for me for unlocking. I just didn't feel that comfortable with it. However, now it's a lot better with the 7 and 7 Pro because one, it's a larger area, and secondly, they've made it faster so that it unlocks the phone faster, which is a big improvement. I haven't set it up and used it yet, so I'm not sure how it's going to compare to the S10, which I think is probably the standard for the in-display right now in terms of security and being pretty quick. So now, the very interesting thing that I found is that the OnePlus 7, not the Pro, just the normal 7, is not being released worldwide. It is only being released in certain countries, mostly Asian ones. And that's interesting because OnePlus, I have been complaining about this a lot, and this is a very clear strategy move from their point of view. What they're doing is now, since they've made their device more expensive than ever and very much neck and neck with most flagships out there, they have also brought down the entry-level price. Biggest thing with OnePlus 7 and the 7 Pro is, as I said, the cost of the 7 Pro is way higher, but the 7 has lowered its price. And the OnePlus 6T, it's retailed for about $550, $540 to $550, depending on the market you are in. But now, the OnePlus 6T is, the OnePlus 7 is coming out at $470. So $470 is lowering the entry point, which they've been increasing steadily over the years, and I've complained about, but I'm glad that what they're doing is they're allowing you to get in at a lower cost, but also allowing you to have a wider range. I just wish that they kept the 7 for the entire global market and not just the specific Asian markets. But it does make sense to me because a lot of countries aren't as price sensitive as Asian countries. So paying a little bit more for that 7 Pro is not going to feel bad to them, especially since the benefits you get and the comparing it to the competition is just, it blows it out of the water anyway. So, and talking about price, how can we not talk about the 7 Pro's impressive price? $670. What I genuinely thought, I think I tweeted this, or I was talking to people and I was telling them I had a idea of $800. I thought that this phone was going to sell at $799 because of all the things they're including. I just didn't think that they were going to be able to come in under that $800 price. Now, when the event unfolded, and I was cringing because in the event, the presenter's like, how much do you think this device should be? And I'm like, no, dude, don't do that because everybody's going to just, make fun of you for that. But it was actually, the way he did it made sense because it was definitely undercutting what we thought it was going to be. So at $670, it was $130 less than what I thought, and definitely less than what everyone else thought. And when you compare it to some of the direct competition, such as the Galaxy S10 series, the iPhone XR, and a bunch of other phones, the OnePlus 7 Pro just makes so much more sense in terms of value for money. And talking about value for money, that's still the case for this phone. It is value, but it is not the perfect phone. And I've talked about this before. It seems like the cameras are going to be good, but it's still not, I don't know how it's going to stack up against the S10 and S10 lineup. It'll be interesting to see. But I know for a fact that some things they skipped out on were, one, wireless charging. I really don't like that they think that wireless charging isn't good enough, and I'm tired of OnePlus fans defending the lack of wireless charging. I understand that you don't want a wireless charge, but that doesn't mean everyone else doesn't. Even Apple has gotten onto the standard, and Apple usually is like the last and probably never do it kind of people, and they're heavily pushing wireless charging, so I don't understand why OnePlus is being so stubborn about it. And secondly, we still are missing the headphone jack. So I'm not someone who cares at all about the headphone jack. I haven't missed it in a long time, but I'm kind of voicing popular opinion here because that market range is kind of for people who are very price conscious. So price conscious also means they might not be willing to spend $100, $150 on wireless headphones. They want good wired headphones to come with the phone, and they want to be able to plug any wired headphones right into their phone. And I personally haven't been affected too much by this. I switched to wireless. I've been good to go. But as I said, I'm just voicing general concern. And OnePlus being so adamant about keeping it and removing it now, as I'm saying, their brand strategy just seems to be a little bit conflicted. So on the topic of wireless charging, it's a good time to touch upon the battery. So the OnePlus 7 comes with a 3,700 milliamp hour battery. The 7 Pro is at a 4,000 milliamp hour battery. Very respectable numbers for the sizes. The one thing I did notice as well was that the OnePlus 7 Pro is quite a massive phone. So even next to the 6T, which is a pretty big phone, this is not small by any measure. This is one of the larger phones, I think. And even next to that, it just looks so big. And finally, let me talk about the color option. So right now you got the OnePlus 7 comes in black and red. Both really decent colors. Definitely the red is the star of that show. And then the OnePlus 7 Pro comes with 3 interesting colors: mirror gray, Nebula Blue, and almond. Now, almond is, just imagine the iPhone XS in gold, and that's exactly what the almond OnePlus 7 is. The Nebula Blue is very interesting. That's one. It's like a finish I haven't seen. I've seen the two-tone finishes becoming popular more and more on Chinese phones especially, but this is a very different finish. It's matte, and it looks really good. And then the finish I didn't expect to be that good is the mirror gray. So the mirror gray, I saw it in store, and it was impressive. I didn't think I'd like it so much because I bought the midnight black. No, was it midnight black? Or I bought whatever matte. It was matte black. I bought the matte black OnePlus 6T before I bought this McLaren edition, and I did not like it. The black, I found both of them to be boring, but this new one is just amazing. It's got this reflective finish as reference in the name by Mirror Gray, and it just looks beautiful. Definitely recommended for somebody who just wants a more basic color, or somebody who doesn't want that two-tone look on their phone. So that was the colors. Now, storage and RAM are pretty consistent. from the 6T to the 7. So you still have the 6 GB of RAM and 128. No 64 option anymore, and you have the 8 GB and 256 GB option. If you want the red color, you're not going to get it in the 6 GB RAM version for the OnePlus 7, but you will get it in the 8 GB and 256 option. So similarly for the 7 Pro, you have 6 gigs, 8 gigs, and a new 12 gig option. So interestingly, the mirror gray one is only going to come with 6 gigs and 8 gigs of RAM. If you want the 12 gigs, it's only going to be available in Nebula Blue, and the Nebula Blue won't be available in 6 gigs of RAM. And the OnePlus and Almond, the OnePlus 7 Pro, is only going to be available in 8 GB and 256. So pretty confusing lineup there, but if you want 12 gigs, you're only going to get it in the Nebula Blue. If you want 6 gig, you're only going to get it in the mirror gray. And all the other colors you're going to get in the 8 and 256 GB option. So it's pretty clear that OnePlus knows that that's going to be the middle ground for most people. So they offered the most colors there, which I like. So with that being said, after looking at all these specs, after looking at everything that these phones have to offer, what are my thoughts? My thoughts on this are, I really underestimated OnePlus this time. I was against them. I was not happy with their previous decisions, and I'm glad I was wrong. I'm glad they went up. They really beat my expectations. They did a very good job with both the phones they launched this time. I am going to concede and admit it, I was wrong. And I think that that's very important to do in line of tech, because sometimes people just get too caught up in their own head. And I'm glad OnePlus has been able to defy expectations, keep the price low, and even though they have made some choices I don't like, I think overall as a package they've done a very good job. Now, what confuses me and what's going to be the most interesting to see is what they do in November. So for those of you guys who aren't familiar with this, OnePlus releases 2 phones every year. So once in May, once in November. So that's usually when just the number and then the number with the T. So the 3 and 3T, 5 and 5T, 6 and 6T. Now we have the 7 and 7 Pro. What's going to be interesting for me is, are they going to do the same thing this year? Are they going to have another phone in November? I really hope not, because they're at $700 now, and for a $700 phone to be outdated in 6 months, I would not feel good. I would hate for the people who buy this phone to feel kind of lost. And I would even personally stop recommending people buy this phone after July. Like after June or July, I'd just be like, don't buy this phone, because in November the new one's gonna be out and you're gonna feel really bad for not waiting like 2 or 3 months to just buy that phone. And that's where the perpetual issue is for me with OnePlus. They still aren't clear with their just release cycle. There seems to be changes every time. I'm glad that they reduced the entry point in terms of price, so now it's lower than it was last time around. But they've also increased their total price range, because now you can top out at $750, where previously even the special edition only went for $700. So I'm going to guess that the special edition 7 Pro this time around is going to be somewhere in the $800 range. And what got me thinking about this is, if you're in the $700 to $800 range, the S10s are already getting discounts and already in that price range. The iPhone 7 is right there in that territory, and a bunch of other flagship phones live in the $700 to $800 category. So how are you going to compete with that? And that's going to be interesting to see. Now, OnePlus is really good with performance, really good with the design, really good with everything surrounding those aspects. But when it comes to camera, when it comes to just having a lot of features added on, they don't have IP rating, they don't have the wireless charging. They're very selective with the things they want to do, and they're never really clear about it. So it's going to be interesting for me to observe what OnePlus does the next time around. So that's it for this one, guys. I feel like I spoke a lot, and I might have spoken in circles a little bit, so I'm sorry about that. But as I said, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I'm very excited for the 7 Pro, and if you haven't already, please be sure to follow me on social media, Twitter and Instagram. I have all the links down in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.